Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Higher Expertise. Today we have Flor, Israel, and Austin. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
Good. It's a rainy day.
Doing
It
great,
is.
thank
It is
you.
a rainy. I don't know. It's a kind of a weird day.
Rainy and
It's
cold.
it's 60, 70 degrees here in Texas, so that's not bad. We take that. Getting ready for the cold weather. So today we have two topics for today. We're gonna be talking about the RYUK ransomware, and also we're gonna be talking about a little bit about consulting. So let's kick this off real quick. Let's talk about the ransomware. The RYUK, I think is how you pronounce it. We don't even know how do you pronounce that. So let's talk about that. It's a $1 billion business. It's a very dangerous business. It's taking companies as hostages. So let's start with the basic, guys. What exactly is the Rajuk? If that is how you pronounce it, which I believe it is, we did research. We did some research, and I think it's the Rajuk. What is the Rajuk ransomware?
So the RYUK ransomware, which is very hard to pronounce, but
Yeah.
it is ransomware that targets any number of high-profile organizations where the attackers penetrate the network using malware, usually TrickBot, and it usually comes in the form of phishing and spam emails or a Trojan horse for Windows, and it basically encrypts sensitive information or in some cases a lot of information that the business would need or use essentially all the time, and holds it hostage so the attackers' demands can be met through some kind of Bitcoin transfer is usually when they release the information or the encryption key.
hmm And who do they target? Flor, who do they normally target? Who have we seen that they normally target?
Well, high-profile companies such as government companies, some health companies as well, school
Just
districts.
about pretty much. These guys they do their research. These guys they know who they're targeting. Um, Especially if they know they have a pretty good managed services team or a pretty good consulting team. They might know this a little bit harder for them. So usually they go for the vulnerable people that they know they're gonna be able to take hostages as hostage easier. You know,
Yeah.
but
And
you
they normally build a profile on the targets, right? So they spend a little bit of time. These people are very intelligent people that are targeting specific industries and targeting specific victims, right? They will go out there and build a profile of the organization. They will understand how much revenue they have and how much they can charge, and then target them based on their ability to pay. So they're not going to target you or myself or people that are just the individuals because they know they're not going to be able to pay millions of dollars. But they do target, they do their homework on the targets that they're targeting, and they will try to figure out, financially how well they're doing. They will also pick specific industry, like Flor mentioned. They tend to pick government entities and healthcare a lot, but we've also seen it happen in organizations that have a ton of subscribers. I forgot which one was the company. Garmin, I think, is one of them that has a lot of user subscribers that they were targeted. And so they build a profile of their victims, and then they go after them. Let's talk a little bit of how they come into the
how do they
organization.
deliver it?
Yeah, how do they deliver it?
But before that, I do have a question. What I know there's a lot of things. You just said they pretty much built like a portfolio about that organization.
A
And
profile.
a profile, I should say.
Yeah.
So how do you consider, picking back on what I said earlier, how did they determine that X company is vulnerable? What makes a company vulnerable for people like that?
Well, I don't think that they necessarily target vulnerable companies. I think they target companies that have the ability to financially
They have the
sustain,
catch.
that has a cash. And then they find vulnerabilities, right? They will target different departments. They will target, shipping or support or marketing or some department that they know can be vulnerable to phishing attacks. And that's how they try to come in. They will build a profile that gives them some information on their financial status, and then they will target departments that they feel will have vulnerable people to phishing attacks.
No, what happens if the company doesn't? I mean, it's not willing to pay. They don't lose anything, right?
They do not. Yeah, they only have the potential to gain.
To gain, right?
To gain. So I think their investment up front is doing the research to figure out, okay, who do we target, right? And they probably spend number of weeks, months, maybe targeting and finding information throughout the web on the company. So they will definitely do their homework, but they have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
To lose. That's
Yeah.
scary.
And we gotta keep in mind that this is what they do. This is their full-time job. These guys are all day in front of the screen, pretty much watching these companies and building a profile on this company and looking for weak spots. They're working. They work hard on this. So let's talk about how do they deliver this ransomware into the organization. Austin, you said earlier that they come in pretty much like a Trojan horse. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Elaborate a bit more. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, to define what a Trojan horse is some kind of malware that is disguised as something that doesn't look malicious. But to build on the targets that we were mentioning earlier, some notable ones in addition to Garmin are the Los Angeles Times, which, as Israel mentioned, had a lot of subscribers, and also Baltimore County School Districts, which had a lot of users. So, like you were saying, Nelson, these guys, it's a full-time job for them, and I'm sure that as dangerous as the RYUK ransomware is, it's not the only attack that they'll try to penetrate a system with. They'll probably start out with smaller spam or phishing attacks to kind of prod and gain a lot of the information that we've talked about, building the profile for the company. And then over a period of a couple of months, their plan comes into fruition, and the RYUK ransomware has infiltrated their network and has begun to encrypt the data that has come through probably a file that was installed by someone clicking a link on an email. It can be as simple as that. So, some of these high-profile targets, they have users, or they may have older software, older systems in place, and the users may not have the best security protocols or the best information from their IT department on what to do in these sort of situations, how to look out for spam, and how to avoid these kind of scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that these guys should consider is, how do they prevent, or how do they avoid, how do they recover from a ransomware?
How do you protect yourself from?
Yeah, how do we protect yourself? How do you, as an organization, one of the things that you're going to be asking yourself right now when you're listening to our podcast here is, how do you protect yourself? How do you mitigate potential risk for these ransomware? Not just the RYUK, but we're talking about the RYUK today, but how do you protect about these ransomware? One, I think it's going to be making sure that you educate your employees, your staff, and tell them not to click on any emails that don't seem legitimate, right? Try to avoid clicking on surveys, try to avoid clicking on things that seem on the surface. Are you getting an invoice from QuickBooks or you're getting an invoice from another company? All of those things can seem like they're non-malicious, but essentially they're being sent to you to probe and try to build a profile of those employees within the organization so they can know who's clicking on those. There is no decryption key if you didn't create the virus, right? So you have to pay for the decryption key in order to get decrypted. And in some cases, that decryption key doesn't even work or decrypt all the files because it has mutated or has changed or the time has lapsed. So they give you a certain window on when you can do it. They target a specific date and they target a specific day for you to get the key. If you miss those windows, you won't be able to decrypt. So the only way to get your data back is to restore from some previous backup. Hopefully, you have a recent backup and you don't have to recreate a whole lot of data. But in most cases, what we generally see is they're able to recover up to a specific point in time and then recover or recreate the data that's beyond that certain point. So let's say, for example, your latest backup is Monday at 5, and you're at Tuesday when you realize that you got hit. You're going to lose a day of data, and your users are going to have to recreate the data, but you were able to recover up to Monday. And so that gives you a point in time where you have recovery, and then you're going to have to recreate some of that data with your users. The disruption is massive, right? We've seen clients that they've spent 6-7 months on a recovery like this. We've seen clients that have been able to recover in weeks, but it's a massive impact to the organization, and the demands for the decryption key are sometimes in the thousands, if not in the millions of dollars.
While there is no decryption for the ransomware, this September, the U.S. Cyber Command organization launched a counterattack to disconnect TrickBot, which was the malware we mentioned earlier, from a number of internet servers. And Microsoft also launched a trademark law on disrupting RYUK botnet. So there is some fight going on this year to offset what damage has been caused.
Mm-hmm. The other thing the history of the actual virus is believed to have started somewhere in Russia or China, Asia, and Russia, but they can't pinpoint exactly where the RYUK has started and what organization has pushed it through, but it's in the millions of dollars. But this brings us to a good point about having a good partner to help you recover from these things, right? We provide managed services to organizations, and we encourage you to reach out not just to us, but to whoever you believe could be a good partner to you to help you recover from these critical events, because they create a ton of disruption for your organization. And if you don't have a good IT strategy in place, you will feel the wrath of a virus like the RYUK. And so if you're listening to our podcast, one of the things you need to consider is having a partner that can help you through a situation like this. Even if you have your own IT team, bringing in experts from the outside to help you recover, it is critical, because you have people that have the expertise, people who can support you through a crisis within your organization. They have a good plan on how to recover. So it's definitely important to do that.
And that's going to lead us to the next point, which is our next topic, which is consulting. And to us, consulting is more than just giving advice. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you have somebody that comes to you with an issue. Uh, how do you guys handle, whether is it the ransomware or whether is it whatever it is? Usually they need a problem to be solved that needs to be solved. Um, how do you handle that first call from that particular client that probably wants to get involved with an IT team or a managed services team?
We've talked about this before on a previous podcast, and something that Israel actually said was, the client may be overestimating or underestimating the nature or the size of the problem that they're having. So a good idea is to assess the nature of the business, whether it's a healthcare organization, a security organization, whatever it may be, and determine the right steps to take for that client, because every client is going to be different, every environment will be different, but it's important to pick up on the details of the client to determine what kind of time will be spent on their issues and what kind of resources they'll need.
So it's not like an universal one fits all. It's usually like a tailor fit solution to a particular for the particular organization where it depends on the industry, depending on the size, on the infrastructure of the particular situation.
Absolutely, and then sorry, Flora, I didn't mean to cut you off there. And it also depends on the project. You may have a client that has a critical project and they need multiple resources, and another one that just need, for example, a small patch to be applied, where one client requires you to implement a whole ERP system. So every client is different, every project, every issue, every circumstance is different, and we target them accordingly. We have a team of experts that can jump on and help resolve the issues, whatever they may be, but we also assess and determine the right expert, the right team, and the right approach for those going in to those projects, to those issues. And then we also try to mitigate. In the case of a RYUK, we work with clients to understand.
RYUK.
We don't even know how it's called, but however it's called, we work with them to ensure that they have a good strategy for backups, that these backups are tested and verified, that we have nightly, weekly, monthly, quarterly backups that we are able to recover from.
But these strategies that you guys need to implement, or these changes that need to be implemented into the organization, how do you guys address it? Do you guys do this remotely, or do you guys actually have to go on site to make all of these implementations or changes happen?
I think it's both. I think there's some work that can only be done on site, but with the current situation, you'll see that a lot of the work being done in consulting is being done remotely. There's even entire positions that are only remote, and that's just the nature of our time. But there will always be on-site projects. If there's on-premise servers or a hybrid server configuration where they have some servers in the cloud and some on-prem, then obviously you would have to spend some time on site with the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Israel, you were going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's some, we provide support for things like phones and mobile devices and things like that, right? So laptops, like Austin mentioned, those things require you to touch them. Even if you try to provide some support, you have to be on site to be able to physically set up a device and things like that, right? So it's a combination, like Austin just mentioned. I just wanted to reinforce that.
Right. And to wrap it up, one of the things that we also say here is build consensus and commitment. So how do you guys build consensus and commitment going into an organization with a particular issue?
Yeah, I think with regards to commitment, we're committed to helping our clients through issues, through support, through ongoing situations, right? So our commitment to them is that we will have the right experts, the right team, and work with them. One of our marketing motto is we work with you to make sure that you get the right support, right? So we get the consensus by working with the individual departments, the individual managers, the people on the front line at the clients. But we also are very committed into whatever strategies they put in place, right? If we're working with a healthcare organization, we know that patient is key and number one in front and center. When we're working with a manufacturing organization, we know that getting shipments out the door is front and key, you know? And so we understand the different industries that we're in. We understand the verticals that we're working, and we get consensus from the people that we're working with. That's how we do it. That's what we're able to do it.
Absolutely.
And just
All
to
right.
add to that, working as a team with the client, making sure that you're communicating with them as a partnership rather than two individuals working together, and also being reliable and giving the client 100% of your attention is invaluable to them, because there are some times where you have to deal with things externally, but as a consultant, you want to make sure that the client knows where you prioritize your work, and that's for them.
All right, guys. So let's wrap it up. Great topic. Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna let you go. It's Friday at the time that this podcast is being recorded. It's Friday. So if you're listening to this today, hope you have a great weekend. If not, please follow us on social media. We are on Spotify, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Vimeo, and YouTube. Go to our website. We have consultants there to answer your questions. If you have any questions or you need help or support, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to get in contact with you and support you and educate you in whatever you need. Thank you guys for being here, and we are going to see you next time. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.